I'm going to tell you why the upcoming J.J. Abrams film The End of Oak Street is actually a new secret installment to the anything but straightforward Cloverfield universe. Maybe. Hey there all you beautiful guardians of the glaze. Welcome to the Milky Donut. Today we're talking about The End of Oak Street, the newest J.J. Abrams film, and honestly it has piqued my curiosity. It's so nice to see dinosaur films that aren't part of the Jurassic World franchise because I'm gonna be honest here. I gotta come out of the hate closet. I do not like the Jurassic World films. The first one's okay, but I really don't like. To be honest, I don't even consider them a part of the Jurassic Park franchise. I said it. It's Jurassic Park 1, 2, and 3. That's it. You know what? It's fine. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about why The End of Oak Street is actually a secret installment to the Cloverfield universe. And before we get started, I am on a journey to reach 10,000 subscribers. If you wouldn't mind subscribing, it's completely free, and liking and leaving a comment on this video. It would help me out a ton. And with all that being said, let's get into the speculation, shall we? Before I bring forth some evidence in support of this theory, I just want to say that this is just a theory. A game! Take all of this for what it is, which is simply a fun theory video. That being said, there's surprisingly a large amount of evidence that supports it. To start off, as soon as Bad Robot dropped the trailer for The End of Oak Street, I had a feeling right off the bat that there had to be more than meets the eye with this film. At first glance, without really thinking about it, it just looks like a contained suburban sci-fi horror film about a neighborhood that gets transported to what I can only assume is one of the following. I present to you Exhibit A. An alternate dimension or planet with animals and fauna that simply resemble dinosaurs and fauna from our prehistoric Earth, but is something else entirely, or it's a time rift that literally causes the neighborhood to be transported back in our time to our actual prehistoric Earth. Either of which would make sense in the world of Cloverfield, as it's definitely no stranger to time warps, wormholes, and alternate dimensions, as depicted in 10 Cloverfield Lane, the Cloverfield Paradox, and the original 2008 Cloverfield. All of which are part of the same universe, but not the same universe. There's a lot to it, and I'm not going to be the one to dive deep into that, so go watch this video right here if you're interested in the lore of the Cloverfield universe. At the End of Oak Street is directed by David Robert Mitchell, the mind behind It Follows, and stars Anne Hathaway and Obi-Wan Kenobi, with distribution by Warner Bros. And although the premise does seem simple, it's definitely a head-scratcher at the same time. A quiet neighborhood suddenly vanishes and somehow dinosaurs begin to appear, at least what I can only assume are dinosaurs. I mean, this right here looks like an Allosaurus to me, but it's just a brief glimpse. I'm pretty sure it's dinosaurs, and I'm pretty sure they're just back in prehistoric times on Earth, but I'm sure we'll get a better look when the official trailer releases. Alright, I've kept you guys waiting long enough. Let's just jump right into some evidence, shall we? That of which comes from our family that the film is centered around. The Platt family. Platt. Does that sound familiar? Because it should. That's immediately intriguing because in Cloverfield 2008, Hud Platt is the cameraman who documents the entire event before being killed by Clovey at the end. Platt isn't the most unique name, so it could just be an Easter egg or a coincidence, but it's also not really that common either. And knowing Bad Robot's history of being intentional with details like this, it does feel more deliberate than a coincidence. And I also found it funny how the gap between the release dates of the Cloverfield movies also somewhat seems to align with this film. Albeit this does seem like a huge stretch even for me, but it is interesting nonetheless. Cloverfield released in 2008, followed by 10 Cloverfield Lane in 2016, creating an 8-year gap between the two. 2 years later in 2018, the Cloverfield Paradox released, creating a 2-year gap. Now in 2026, we have The End of Oak Street releasing, creating, you guessed it, an 8-year gap. Pattern or coincidence? You tell me. It's like a 98% chance that it's just a coincidence and I'm looking way too deep into something that's not going to happen, but you know what, it's still interesting and it's worth mentioning. But believe me, that's far from all the evidence we have to work with. There's also the working title, Flower Vale Lane, the name the film was rumored to be called before changing to its final title, The End of Oak Street. And if that sounds familiar, it's because back in 2016, 10 Cloverfield Lane was originally developed under the title The Cellar, before being quietly renamed just weeks before release in the same manner. That kind of last-minute title swap is a signature Bad Robot move, so that being said, it could just be something that they like to do, but it does raise the possibility that the same strategy is being used here to disguise another Cloverfield entry. Not to mention the title At the End of Oak Street, although not being an exact address, it is the name of a street, similar to how 10 Cloverfield Lane uses a street name in its title. And it only gets more interesting when you look at the marketing. An ARG, otherwise known as a type of puzzle that involves elements of a fictional world brought into the real world, often used for viral marketing strategies, already appears to be alive, with a fake Facebook Marketplace listing popping up for a portable TV. The seller mentions that reception has been bad ever since a quote, weird light flashed in the sky, and the pickup location is listed as the end of Oak Street. This kind of viral clue-based marketing is exactly what was used to build hype for both Cloverfield and 10 Cloverfield Lane, suggesting that this isn't just a random coincidence, but part of a larger pattern for fans of the franchise to pick up on. Even the in-universe events line up almost too perfectly. In 10 Cloverfield Lane, Emmett describes massive flashes of light in the sky before everything fell apart. In the Cloverfield paradox, a text message can be read on Murph's phone that reads, "OMG, 5 city blocks just disappeared, this can't be happening." Now brace yourselves because I'm about to put my theory cap on. We can theorize that whoever sent that text would have had to have sent it around the same time the main characters are still at Rob's going away party in 2008, if it indeed did come from the Cloverfield 2008 timeline, merging those two timelines. And we can assume that the text was sent around the same time that the other people in New York started to get alarming messages, which means it was either received before anyone really understood what was happening, or during Clovey's reign of destruction through the city. But maybe, just maybe, and I know this is crazy, the text came from somebody in the end of Oak Street timeline, because of course an entire neighborhood, possibly 5 blocks, completely disappears. But of course the text could just be implying that 5 blocks got completely destroyed by Clovey, or it came from somebody from the Cloverfield paradox world. We don't know. Nonetheless, they aren't just similar ideas, they're the same kinds of events happening on different scales, following the same universal logic across multiple films. And if I have yet to convince you, allow me to give you what might be the most solid piece of evidence yet, that at the end of Oak Street is indeed a Cloverfield movie. Oak Street is a real street in Santa Monica, California, and I know what you're saying, you beautiful guardian of the glaze, but Milky, you've completely lost your mind. There must be a million Oak Streets across the US, which yes, you are correct, but this specific Oak Street literally ends at Clover Park. A movie called The End of Oak Street leading directly to something called Clover is the kind of connection that feels less like an accident and more like an intentional clue. And with all of that hard, solid, convincing evidence, this movie has to be a secret entry to the Cloverfield franchise, right? Well, no. Unfortunately, I don't actually think that this is a thing. Now yes, I do think that there are intentional Easter eggs that point to the Cloverfield franchise, but as a massive 2008 Cloverfield fan, and I'm sure you've experienced the same thing, we've been through this before with Overlord and Super 8, where we get our hopes up thinking they're gonna make a secret sequel to Cloverfield and it just doesn't happen. Not to mention the issue of studio rights, which does seem like a deal breaker and probably is, because Paramount Pictures owns the Cloverfield franchise, but the film is being distributed by Warner Brothers, so normally this would shut down any possibility of a connection. And yes, I know Paramount is reportedly in acquisition talks involving Warner Brothers, but it doesn't seem likely. And to be honest with you, as a huge 2008 Cloverfield fan, that's okay. Because I would rather have J.J. Abrams just stop playing around and messing with our heartstrings and give us a dedicated sequel to Cloverfield, and I just don't think that this is it. And I honestly just think this looks cool. I think it looks like a cool movie, a cool concept. I want to see another dinosaur movie that's not Jurassic World, so that's alright. But I could be wrong. Maybe we'll find out that it is indeed a Cloverfield movie. But what do you think? Let me know down in the comments below. Subscribe to become a guardian of the glaze. Don't forget to like and comment on this video, and I'll see you next time on the Milky Donut.